Want to live to be 100 with your mind and body intact? There are places on Earth that are considered blue zones, regions where people are living to be 100 and beyond. And there are some common things that the people in these cultures are doing as far as diet and lifestyle that author Dan Buettner has discovered with his team of researchers. So join me as I review his Blue Zone Solutions book that may help you make some shifts with your weight, but also the biological timeline of your life. So live long and prosper and come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello, everyone. Come on in. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I've been thinking about it. Many people ask me, I've been maintaining a 40-pound weight release now for 27, going on 28 years. And a lot of times people ask me, well, Rita, so much of weight loss, when we are losing weight or trying to lose weight, we're focused on getting on the scale and the scale being down a pound, 2 pounds. We're focused on weight loss. So, people will ask me, well, what do you focus on? When you're maintaining, the world of maintaining has eluded a lot of people. And I think the important thing about weight maintenance, I get into this a lot in other places, but for me, it's continuing to challenge myself, but in different ways. And once I achieved my ideal weight, the focus for me was optimal health. I wanted to dive deeper into becoming even the healthiest I could be. Then once I had my children, because I had my children a little late, I started with my daughter and I was 37. I was actually 38 when I had her? You block out those years. Was I 37? It's somewhere around there. I had my daughter and I had my son when I was almost 41. So, so I want to be around a long, long time. And those of you who have gone through my Shift Weight Mastery process know I have this vision of wearing a red dress and dancing with my son for his 60th birthday. So, there you go. So I'm focused on longevity. And so that is something that my people who have gone through the Shift Weight Mastery process, release the weight, and now are maintaining, it's something that you see amongst a lot of people who are now maintaining their weight is optimal health. Hopefully as you're releasing weight, you're focused on that as well, but that does become, I've gotten more and more interested in health in general. So I wanted to introduce this cool book and brand basically called Blue Zones. You've probably heard about it. Maybe you have. My husband and I listened to this particular book. My husband and I listen to books when we go on road trips. We've been driving up a lot to Northern California because my daughter's in college, and we'll go take her home or take her back or come and pick her up. And on our last trip home, we listened to this really awesome book called The Blue Zone Solution. So I also bought the book, and I'm going to share it with you today. Dan Buettner, who created the Blue Zones brand, because now there's actually a new cookbook out. I think it's based on American blue zones that and recipes there. But years and years ago, when I first started the Shift Weight Mastery process, he was actually in Manhattan Beach, California, near where I was, because I had a practice down in Manhattan Beach as well at the time. And I remember going with a friend to a couple of the events because he actually came to the area to get what he did. And what the book gets into is how he went and studied all these different cultures around the world with other researchers, took a lot of data and pulled out the main lifestyle and eating habits that have allowed these people to live to be in these zones to be 100 years old or more. And so I'm going to read some of this from the book so you can get a little taste of what living to 100 looks like. But yeah, so he then brought all this information back and went to various cities across the U.S. and established blue zone habits. So he actually worked in cooperation with that particular city. And in the amount of health improvements that they were able to get in the citizenry across the city was astounding. So this has now become, an established brand, and the kind of work he's doing is really super cool. So I'm just going to read to you from the back of the book so you get a gist of what the book is about, because I'm sure you're going to want to run out and get it if you don't own it already. So in this revolutionary book, best-selling author and National Geographic fellow Dan Buettner reveals what the world's longest-lived people have eaten over the last 100 years to help you lead a healthier, more fulfilling life. Drawing on his decade-long study of 5 blue zones, longevity hotspots around the globe, Buettner and his team of dietitians have created a diet for a new generation that emphasizes ways to look beyond your plate, showing you how to engineer healthy choices into your daily routine. In the Blue Zones solution, you will find 44 Blue Zone foods that centenarians eat to live to be 100, 77 delicious longevity recipes, which I've had, which are awesome, checklists for promoting healthier habits, stories and strategies filled with proven results and actionable advice from the world's leading experts. The Blue Zone Solutions is a pioneering plan for taking charge of your health, refreshing the way you eat, and adding more vital years to your life. So my husband and I kind of started to, and my son actually, because my son's into health, started really adding some more of these things. I mean, we eat pretty healthy, but we actually got some cool tips from the book. So I'm going to just read to you a little bit about these 5 blue zones and some of what the people, the researchers found, because I think this is really fascinating. And then I'm going to walk you through some of the some bits and pieces, so that to wet your whistle with regards to if you want to dive deeper into this book or not. So this chapter is called Secrets of Living Long. To tell the full story behind the life-changing ideas and practical everyday advice I want to share with you in this book, I need to go back to the beginning. For more than a decade, I've been working with the National Geographic Society to identify hotspots of longevity around the world. We called them blue zones because a team of researchers had once circled a large target region on a map with blue ink. Teaming up with demographer Michael Poulain, I set out to find the world's longest-lived people. We wanted to locate places that not only had high concentration of 100 years old, but clusters of people who had grown old without diseases like heart problems, obesity, cancer, or diabetes. Poulain did extensive data and analysis and research and pinpointed several regions in the world that appeared to have long-lived people. We needed to visit them, check birth and death records to confirm that these individuals really were as old as they thought they were. In many places, the oldest individuals often didn't know their ages or might be lying about their ages, as was famously the case in Soviet Georgia in the 1970s. By 2009, we found 5 places that met our criteria. Ikaria, Greece, an island in the Aegean Sea, 8 miles off the coast of Turkey, that has one of the world's lowest rates of middle-age mortality and the lowest rates of dementia. Okinawa, Japan, the largest island in the subtropical archipelago, home to the largest long-lived women. Sardinia, the mountainous highlands of an Italian island that boasts the world's highest concentration of centenarian men. Loma Linda, California, a community with the highest concentration of Seventh-day Adventists in the United States, where some residents live 10 more healthy years than the average American. In Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, a place in the Central American country where residents have the world's lowest rate of middle-age mortality and the second highest concentration of male centenarians. To tease out the factors that contributed to longevity in these places, we assembled a team of leading medical researchers, anthropologists, blah, blah, blah. He gets into that, how he traveled all over the world, how they pulled out all this data. And he said they came up with these 9 lessons we call the Power 9. First lesson, move naturally. The world's longest lived people don't pump iron, run marathons, or join gyms. Instead, they live in environments that constantly nudge them into moving. They grow gardens. They don't have mechanical conveniences for their house and yard work. Every trip to work, to a friend's house, or to church is a walking experience. So, they definitely are walking uphill, herding goats. I said, that is a new California trend. I can start a power goat herding exercise group. Don't you think that'd be fun? Anyway, so the exercise was moving naturally. And things like cooking. Cooking is actually an exercise. Like the women would chop the wood for the fires and knead the bread, and that you work up a sweat doing that. Okay, 2, purpose. The Okinawans call it ikigai, and the Nicoyans call it plan de vida. Both it translates into why I wake up in the morning. In all blue zones, people had something to live for beyond just work. Research has shown that knowing your sense of purpose is worth up to 7 years of life expectancy. Interesting. 3, downshift. Even people in the blue zone experience stress, which leads to chronic inflammation associated with every major age-related disease. The world's longest-lived people have routines to shed that stress. Okinawans take moments each day to remember their ancestors. Adventists pray. Acarians take a nap. And Sardinians do happy hour. Well, which culture do you want to live in? Then number 4, 80% rule. Hare Hachi Bu. I've talked about this with my shifters. The 2,500-year-old Confucian mantra spoken before meals in Okinawa reminds us to stop eating when their stomachs are 80% full. The 20% gap between not being hungry and feeling full could be the difference between losing weight and gaining it. People in the blue zones eat their smallest meal late in the afternoon or early evening, and then they don't eat anymore the rest of the day. Plant slant. Beans, including fava, black beans, soybeans, lentils, are the cornerstone of most centenarian diets. Meat, mostly pork, is eaten on average only 5 times per month and in a serving of 3 to 4 ounces, about the size of a deck of cards. Wine at 5. I think some of you may like this. People in all blue zones, even some Adventists, drink alcohol moderately and regularly. Moderate drinkers outlive non-drinkers. The trick is to drink 1 to 2 glasses per day with meals with friends and food. And no, you can't save up all week and have 14 drinks on Saturday. Right tribe. The world's longest lived people choose or were born into social circles that support healthy behaviors. Okinawans create moais, groups of 5 friends that commit to each other for life. Research shows that smoking, obesity, happiness, and even loneliness are contagious. By contrast, social networks of long-lived people favorably shape their health behaviors. And I know some of the people in Manhattan Beach who started Moais back when the Blue Zones visited in the 2009, 2010, and those Moais are still going. So isn't that cool? They get together every Wednesday morning at 6:30 a.m. and go walking. And the idea is you have that group of people who support you through everything in life. And I think this group has gone through a lot in those 10 years or 12 years. Community. All but 5 of the 263 centenarians we interviewed belonged to a faith-based community. It didn't matter which religion. Research shows that attending faith-based services 4 to 5 times per month will add 4 to 14 years of life expectancy. Loved ones first. Successful centenarians in the Blue Zones put their families first. They kept aging parents and grandparents nearby or in the home, which also lowers disease and mortality rates of their children. They commit to a life partner, which can add up to 3 years of life expectancy, and they invest in their children with time and love, which makes the children more likely to be caretakers when the time comes. What we discovered in every Blue Zone, as the Power 9 suggests, is that the path to a long, healthy life comes from creating an environment around yourself, your family, your community that nudges you into following the right behaviors subtly and relentlessly, just as the Blue Zones do for their populations. It's something interesting in the Shift Weight Mastery process that one of the skills of long-term permanent weight mastery is support. So that is very interesting to me. Now I'm going to go through the list of foods or kinds of, the foods that you want to eat according to the Blue Zones. So follow these guidelines and you'll crowd out refined starches and sugar, replace them with more wholesome, nutrient-dense, and fiber-rich foods, and do it all naturally. Number 1, plant slant. See that 90 to 95% of your food comes from a plant or a plant product. Limit animal protein in your diet to no more than 1 small serving per day. Favor beans, greens, yams, sweet potatoes, fruits, nuts, and seeds. Whole grains are okay too. While people in 4 of the 5 Blue Zones consume meat, they do so sparingly and using it mostly as a celebratory food, a small side, or a way to flavor dishes. I'm just going to skip over some of this stuff. Researchers have also found that people who consumed a 1/4 pound of fruit daily were 60% less likely to die during the next 4 years than those who didn't. This is a little interesting. The best of the best longevity foods are leafy greens, such as spinach, kale, beet, turnip tops, chard, and collards. In Acaria, more than 75 varieties of edible greens grow like weeds. Many contain 10 times the polyphenols found in red wine. Studies found that middle-aged people who consumed the equivalent of a cup of cooked greens daily were half as likely to die in the next 4 years as those who ate no greens. Okay, how you can do it. Keep your favorite vegetables and fruits at hand. Don't try to force yourself to eat ones you don't like. That's such a great tip. Eat what you like. Use olive oil like butter. Saute vegetables over low heat. Stock up on whole grains. Wheat didn't play as big of a role in these cultures as did oats and barley, brown rice. Use whatever vegetables are going unused in your fridge to make vegetable soup by chopping them, browning them in olive oil, and then adding boiling water to cover. Retreat from meat. That's number 2. Consume meat no more than twice a week. Eat meat twice a week or less in serving size no more than 2 ounces cooked. Favor true free-range chicken, family farmed pork, or lamb instead of meat raised industrially. Avoid processed meats like hot dogs, luncheon meat, or sausages. Most blue zone people ate small amounts of pork, chicken, or lamb. Adventists, the one popular exception, ate no meat at all. Um, Now, how you can do it, I've pretty much covered that one. Now, the third one is take or leave fish. If you wish, you can eat up to 3 ounces of fish daily. I guess they consider fish different than meat. Think of 3 ounces of a size of deck of cards before it's cooked. Select fish that are common and abundant, not threatened by overfishing. The Adventist Health Study number 2, which has been following 96,000 Americans since 2002, found that the people who lived the longest were not vegans or meat eaters. Interesting. They were vegans or pesco-vegetarians, also known as pescatarians. People who ate a plant-based diet, including a small portion of fish, up to once daily. In other blue zones, fish was a common part of everyday meals eaten on average 2 to 3 times a week. Okay. Diminish dairy. Minimize your consumption of cow's milk, dairy products such as cheese, cream, and butter. The Blue Zones, cows did not figure significantly in any Blue Zones diet except that of the Adventists, some of whom eat eggs and dairy products. In the terms of the human diet, dairy is a relatively newcomer introduced about 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. Our digestive systems are not optimized for milk or milk products, and we now recognize that the number of people who often unknowingly have some difficulty digesting lactose may be as high as 60%. Wow. Small amounts of sheep's milk or goat's milk products, especially full-fat, naturally fermented yogurt with no added sugars a few times a week, are okay. All right. So again, this isn't a diet, you guys, but this is just taking some common eating habits from people who've lived to be 100. 5, occasional egg. If you must eat eggs, limit to 3 times per week. Eggs are consumed in all 5 blue zones, where people eat them an average of 2 to 4 times per week. As with meat protein, the egg is a side dish eaten alongside a larger portion of whole grain or other plant-based feature. Nicoyans fry an egg to fold into a corn tortilla with a side of beans. Number 6, daily dose of beans. Eat at least a half cup of cooked beans daily. Beans are the cornerstone of every Blue Zone diet in the world. Black beans in Nicoya, lentils, garbanzos, and white beans in the Mediterranean, and soybeans in Okinawa. The long-lived populations in these Blue Zones eat at least 4 times as many beans as we do on average. 5-country study financed by the World Health Organization found that eating 20 grams of bean daily reduced a person's risk of dying in any given year by about 8%. How you can do it. Find ways to cook beans that taste good to you. Make sure your pantry has a variety of beans to prepare. Dry beans are the cheapest, but canned beans are quicker. When buying beans, make sure to read the labels. Use pureed beans as a thickener to make soups creamy and protein rich. Make salads heartier by sprinkling cooked beans onto them. Keep your pantry stocked with condiments that dress up beans and make them delicious. Mediterranean bean recipes, for example, usually include carrots, celery, and onions seasoned with garlic, thyme, pepper, and bay leaves. When you go out to dinner, consider Mexican restaurants, which always have pinto or black beans. Number 7, slash sugar. Consume no more than 7 added teaspoons a day. Centenarians typically eat sweets only in celebrations. Their foods have no added sugar. They typically sweeten their tea with honey. This adds up to about 7 teaspoons of sugar a day. The lesson to us: enjoy cookies, candies, bakery items only a few times a week, ideally as part of a meal. Okay. 8, snack on nuts. Eat 2 handfuls handfuls of nuts per day. A handful of nuts equals about 2 ounces, which appears to be the average amount that Blue Zones centenarians are eating. Almonds in Icaria and Sardinia, pistachios in Nicoya, and all nuts with the Adventists. All nuts are good. Nut eaters on average outlive non-nut eaters by 2 to 3 years, according to Adventist Health Study number 2. Similarly, a recent Harvard study followed 100,000 people for 30 years, found that nut eaters have a 20% lower mortality rate than non-nut eaters. 9. Sour on bread. Replace common bread with sourdough or 100% whole wheat. Bread has been a staple in the human diet for at least 10,000 years. In 3 of the 5 Blue Zones, it's still a staple. While not typically used for sandwiches, it does make an appearance at most meals. But what people in the Blue Zones are eating is different altogether from the bread that most North Americans buy. Most commercially available breads start with bleached white flour, which metabolizes quickly into sugar. White bread delivers relatively empty calories, spikes insulin levels. Refined flour is not the only problem inherent to our customary white or wheat breads. Gluten, a protein, gives bread its loft and texture, but also creates digestive problems for some people. Bread in the Blue Zones is different, either whole grain or sourdough, each with its own healthful characteristics. Breads in Arcaria and Sardinian, for example, are made from a variety of 100% whole grains, including wheat, rye, and barley. Each of which offer a wide spectrum of nutrients such as tryptophan, an amino acid, and the minerals selenium and magnesium. Go wholly whole. This is 10. Eat foods that your grandmother would recognize. Another definition of whole food would be one that is of a single ingredient, raw, cooked, ground, or fermented, and not highly processed. Throughout the world's Blue Zones, people traditionally eat the whole food. They don't throw the yolk away to make an egg white omelet. They don't spin the fat out of their yogurt or juice the fiber-rich pulp out of their fruits. They just don't. And they also don't enrich or add extra ingredients to change the nutritional profile of their foods. Instead of vitamins or other supplements, they get everything they need from nutrient-dense, fiber-rich whole foods. And when they prepare those dishes typically contain half dozen or so ingredients simply blended together. All right. So this is a great book. At the end, there's like a bunch of recipes. The book itself gets into the studies and into the stories of them going into these communities across America and making changes in people's health. So definitely check it out. It's really kind of expands your mind a little to think about living a long life and doing what you can to support. So many of these things he mentions are actionable. They might not be doable every day. And what he does suggest is definitely he gets into in the book different ways to ease into the lifestyle. It's not, again, a diet, but a way of life. So, okay, so even if you don't buy the book, wasn't this a great way just to look into eating healthy, not just from a weight loss perspective, but from really enhancing your life and living that really long, healthy, powerful life? I hope that you enjoyed this and have an amazing week. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. And please subscribe to our podcast so you can get our podcast every week. Have a great week. Do you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.